guys, Comic Uno, and today I'm doing a review for Arrow Season 1, Episode 7, called Muse of Fire. And to tell you the truth, I've been really excited for this episode because this is the Huntress episode. I've heard of this since, I think before the show even started. We heard that Huntress was going to either join the cast or at least have a story arc in this episode. And something that was also great is that Jeff Johns wrote it. So there's just so much great DC-ness in this for comic book fans, and I think even non-comic book fans could really enjoy this episode. So let's dive into it. So with this episode, like I said, we get to see Huntress, we get to see something's going on with the mob. In the beginning of this episode, we get to see someone get shot who's talking to Ollie's mom, and they want to make a business deal. And we end up finding out this is part of a mob. Well, I would say part of this gang war that's going on. And so who's behind all this? It is the Burnellis, and we all know that famous last name because that's Huntress's last name. And Huntress has a lot to do with her mob because her father is the head, well, not head, but one of the biggest mob families. So we have Helena Burnelli in this, where she's the daughter of one of the biggest mob bosses. And we get to see kind of the aftermath of, well, I would say how this affects her because of in her life, knowing that her father is part of the mob and how this affects her life. Especially we find out throughout the episode that her fiance died because of her father, because her fiance knew all about him being in the mob and could make him go to jail. But actually Helena was the person who found out all that information, and now Helena feels guilty because it feels like she killed her fiance, and she's like, the reason I do this is not, she says she's not doing it for revenge, but she's doing it for revenge and justice. And throughout this episode, we get to see Oliver sees himself in her, and that's why he's grown such a liking with her. And throughout this episode, we find out that, well, they both find out who each other are and exactly who they are, and they can tell the truth to each other. And that's what Oliver likes, is that finally I have someone to tell the truth and I could be myself with. And in the end of the episode, we get to see them kiss, and they're very comfortable with each other, just because, again, we get to see that they could trust each other. We also get to see a little bit with Tommy. We get to see how bad his father is. The father is also on the head of, you know, the enemies of Star City, the people on the list that Oliver has been trying to attack because of his father, and we get to find out Tommy's father is one of these people. And is that why Tommy's going to become evil? Because we know that Tommy is going to become evil. My guess, kind of like a Lex Luthor thing from Smallville, where Lex was, you know, Clark's best friend and then ends up being his greatest enemy. And I'm sure they're going to go that route. We also get to see a little bit of Laurel. Not a lot, it was more of Tommy and Laurel connection, which I'm not a big fan of, but I guess they have to explore that a little. I just hope they don't do a love triangle thing, because I feel like they do that enough on the CW, so I'm hoping they kind of stray away from that. So if they're gonna go with Tommy and Laurel for now, you know, stay with that. Make them break up, then she could go with Oliver, because we all know she's gonna end up being with Oliver. I like the Huntress and Oliver connection they had. I was like, you know, even though I like Oliver and Laurel together, I kind of like Huntress and Oliver being together also, because we understand why they want to be together. It's like, finally I can tell the truth. Oliver can't be his total self with Laurel, but he could be his total self to Huntress, because Huntress knows what's going on with Oliver, you know, how the island affected him and why he's doing all these things. I think in the next couple of episodes we're going to get to see Oliver realize maybe, you know, Huntress, you're not doing the right things, do it for the right reasons. Or Oliver's just going to notice, wow, maybe I'm doing the wrong thing. I see her, Huntress, you know, killing people for revenge. Am I doing the same thing for my father? Or is it justice? And I think they're going to really look into that in the next you know, coming episodes. Seems like Huntress is going to be in a couple episodes, which I hope so, because I really enjoyed her in this episode. And I'm glad they kind of followed the not Huntress Year 1, because in Huntress Year 1, Huntress' parents died, but they are following who Huntress is, I guess. They're not following Huntress Wayne, who in current New 52, that's who she is. They're not following the Earth 2 stuff, but they are following, you know, the most common Huntress portrayal, which is, you know, Huntress is the daughter of a big mob family, and she just kind of wants justice. And, you know, also in the Huntress year someone very close to her died but didn't really die, and I wonder if they're gonna go that path. I don't read Huntress year 1, you'll understand that, but we don't, is her fiance really dead? Of course, so they're not gonna go that direction. But in the year 1, they went the direction of, oh well, we killed your I think it was like a brother to her, because the family died and that's the person who really took care of her. So he ends up becoming like a priest or something. But I thought they were gonna go that route, but then we find out that, you know, the fiance is just a fiance and he died, and that's why Huntress is doing that. But also I like that they had the religious aspect in this episode too. I think you know, non-comic book readers might not notice it as much. I think they obviously noticed she's very religious, but that's like a lot of her characters, that she always had the cross and that she was very religious, and they really showed that in this episode. They had the, again, the cross. They were at the church. I hope they explore that a little bit more and explain, oh, well, this is why I'm really religious, because she is a religious person. And I hope they do explore that, because I feel like they did touch upon it, and I think that could be interesting to see. So I really enjoyed this episode. I think Jeff Johns did write it, and I think he just did a really great job. It's actually my favorite episode of the series so far. I just feel like Huntress was a really interesting character. Oliver was in the right place in the right time. Just like the whole character development was really great, with Tommy kind of seeing him actually have a conflict. I think with a lot of supporting characters, we just haven't seen conflict that much. We've seen a lot of conflict with Oliver, but we haven't really seen a lot of conflict, let's say, with Tommy. I don't think he has any conflict until really now. What is his father going to do? Like, who exactly is his father? I think we're going to explore that a lot more throughout this season. Also, Thea being curious, I think that was also interesting. We're getting to see a little bit of a development with her character. And I know there's actually a really fun story arc that's coming up next for her character. We're going to see the main villain, Vertigo, who is, this is not really a spoiler, but this is the direction they're going to be going. So if you want to hear, you know, it's a little spoilerish, but it's not really that much of a spoiler. So we're going to see the main villain, Vertigo, who is a drug dealer and experimenting with this new drug. And Thea gets mixed in all of this. So that's going to be really interesting to her story arc. And maybe this development of her being curious will end up Oliver trying to save Thea. Will Thea find out, you know, who Oliver is because she is so curious. So that should be interesting. And I think Thea's story arc will grow a little. But the only thing I didn't like was Laurel in this episode. It felt like she was just very bland, and she just kind of went with everything. She's like, yeah, sure, Tommy, I'll go out with you. Sure, you know, she just kind of went with everything, and I feel like that's not her character. I just felt like she was really boring this episode. And also there's one scene that felt really forced. It was between Thea and the mother, and they're just having this conversation saying, well, you know, Ollie is, oh, he was on the island, you have to understand that. But just like, as they were acting, it just felt it was like a really forced scene that they wanted to explain that, but they just didn't do it in the right way. So that scene I didn't really enjoy. Also, the combat for Helena wasn't great at times. I think Ollie's combat is a lot better. It just, maybe the camera angles, it didn't flow right for me. I just like, oh, well, that looked a little weird. So I didn't love the combat with Helena. Maybe they'll have to work on that a little. I don't know if that's actress's fault or stunt double's fault. I don't know. I just didn't feel like it flowed right. But really, those are just little nitpicky things. Other than that, this story was really great. Huntress was an interesting character, and I had really high expectations, and I think my expectations were met. And it makes me excited to see more of her character. Hopefully, either she'll become a supporting character or a recurring character, because I think she brings a really interesting dynamic to the show and brings something different to the table. I think it's interesting to bring the mob into the show and not just these, you know, enemies that are just rich, pretty much. And I just want to see a little bit more of that. And also I would like to see what, you know, what Dig's been saying throughout this whole entire series, of saying, why don't you be the Robin Hood, you know, protect the people that just need protecting, not just because you need justice. Why can't you just protect people? I hope we see that a little bit throughout this season also. I like that we're getting a little mix of everything. So definitely great episode. This is my favorite episode of the season so far, and I'm sure we're going to have even better ones. It just seems like the show is just going to develop more from here. And I feel like we're definitely hitting a climax with this episode where it just felt really developed and really great story, very story driven. And I just think it was a really good premiere episode for Huntress. I just think it worked really well, and I think even people that don't like comics and have never heard Helena's name, I think they're still interested with it. And I'm glad a lot of my predictions came true, because I'm glad that they kind of, because my prediction is like, oh, she's definitely going to wear the cross. She's definitely, they're definitely going to bring the mob in, and I gotta say, my predictions were right with that. That she did wear the cross, and that was actually a big thing in this episode. And I was like, oh, are they going to do that or not? And I'm happy that they kind of really did stick with her character and make a little twist, though, of Arrow. You know, it was different, but the same, and I think comic book fans could enjoy it, and just anybody could really enjoy this episode. So definitely watch it. It was really good, and again, one of my favorites. I'm going to give it 4.5. I really enjoyed it. Again, one of my favorite episodes of the season, and I can't wait to see more. Arrow just keeps getting better and better. I think there was a couple of weak episodes a couple of weeks ago, but I think the series is just going to get stronger from here. So I hope you guys enjoyed this Comic Uno. Tell me your thoughts about this episode in the comments below. Bye, guys.